Hey, this is Julia Gentry with the Dream Factory & Co. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my dear friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and we have my really good friend, my awesome sauce, author, stage rocker. So basically, whether it's on the page, the stage, or the mic, my really good friend, Julia Gentry, really brings it. She's consistently leveling up, and she is way more interested in helping you level up than to telling you how she leveled up. I mean, the whole conversation we had is about how she pours into other people. She's always sending the elevator down to lift them up, and without also while she's staying humble to be able to be on that lower level and be lifted up by others. It's just, she's such a phenomenal woman. Make sure you listen to the end, because I do have a giveaway, a conference giveaway and whatnot that I'm going to, take care of and give away as a gift. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Julia Gentry. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I have my awesome sauce, lady of the Lord, and like myself, my good friend Julia Gentry from the Dream Factory Company. And she's the founder of the Dream Factory and Company, and author of a best-selling book in Christian leadership, Dream, I Dare You. And we're going to have a book giveaway at the end, so make sure you listen to the end. She's got a fantastic website. Don't go there now. It'll be in the show notes. But despite starting her career in real estate, that sounds familiar, that people that know my life and my journey as well. She started a career in real estate and then being completely burned out in her early 30s, only to experience a midlife awakening. And she can say that today she's truly living the dream. She's a national speaker. She rocks the stage, squad. She's a fantastic author, business owner, growth coach, wife, and homeschool mom to 5 awesome kids. And she knows what it takes to bridge the gap. And that's what we're going to help you do today. And Julia, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Hey, so you introduced me, so I have nothing else that I need to say. Thank you for that introduction. My favorite color is orange. And the reason that I love orange, one, it resembles our fire colors, but 2, it is my color, Scott, and we'll talk a lot about this, but I was a girl who grew up and was in the box, right? I didn't want to be too much, and I always felt like I wasn't enough, and all the stories that we tell each other. And so for me, we joke, but I literally had a closet full of black clothes and blue jeans. And I mean, so much of my life was in this just do what everybody says, downplay it all. And so when I really started to shine, orange became my color, and it has just stayed with us even from a branding perspective. So orange.
No, I love it that you said orange, because orange actually it means kind of a fun color, right? And I watched some clips of you rocking the stage, and you're fun. You hold it, everybody engaged, and squad, if you look in here, she's absolutely stunning. But she's also so well spoken, and orange is definitely in your color wheel. And I'm glad that you said that. So fantastic. So let's get to the roots. I know you say you kind of lived a life in a box. Did you grow up in kind of a strict Christian household, or was it way away from that?
Yeah, it's so funny because looking back, my parents got divorced when I was 5, but they did a great job even through the divorce. I was an only child. They found Jesus when they got a divorce. They had a crazy life up until that point. And what's so interesting about my upbringing, Scott, is that I had a great upbringing. My parents did a great job with what they had. We have our survival stories and our, barely making ends meet. But for me, the reason that the majority of my life up until my mid-20s was so stressful was because I had limiting beliefs that I didn't know about. So it wasn't necessarily exactly what was happening around me that caused me to live in the box. It was the narrative that I had within me. And it's when I actually started doing some of the work that now I live my life doing for the world. It's when I identified what that was, that it just made my whole upbringing make more sense. So my limiting belief caused me to be the perfectionistic one and do all the right things and say all the right things and make sure that, I had every T crossed and every I dotted. And so that's where it all kind of started.
And when did you kind of understand that these limiting beliefs were kind of holding you back from your higher calling and kind of what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I am a huge proponent of understanding patterns.
Okay.
Even now, when I'm talking, if we were to be talking and you were to be like, my wife and I got in an argument and we were bickering about this thing, I would say to you, Scott, is this a one-off? Like, you've never argued about this before? Or is this a pattern? Are you like same thing, different day? And for most of us, we always go pattern, like it's just a pattern. And patterns to me have become a fascinating idea because it implies that we're doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And being that we live in an information age where you and I could Google how to do anything different, how to make $1 million, how to lose 30 pounds, how to be happier, we'd have pages and pages and pages of answers. And yet that information to transformation, that gap is, I believe, bigger than ever before. So that's what I started to recognize back then, right? The more I Google, the less I know.
Sure. Exactly.
And so I was so fascinated about that gap in my life that it's led to not only figuring it out and identifying it and going, man, wherever I go, there I am. And what is this pattern, to ultimately developing a company that it walks people through that process and helps them live free.
That's beautiful. Like what did it feel like when you acknowledged the pattern that was holding you back?
Oh, all the things. It's like a party and you want to run away in shame all at the same time.
Right. I was just going to say that.
You know what I'm saying? Like you literally feel like everything's changing and I want to throw a party. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is a can of worms. And like, this is huge. What am I supposed to do with this information? It feels like that.
It does. It does. Cause I've walked your journey with that, like split parents, co-parenting, and my dad, I love him. He's my best friend. We talk every Sunday and, he worked on the line at General Motors. So his mindset wasn't like, okay, let's go out better, but let's just survive, not thrive. Right. And that kind of was instilled in me. Like a badge of kind of courage was like, oh, Scott can't have it. He'll understand. Like if I can't get him this, and, he's changed so much since then. And I love him. He's my best friend from womb to tomb, but it's like, I was kind of stuck in that pattern as well. And when, a mentor that said to me, that I can't remember the words that he said, but it clicked something. And I felt so much like crap about myself for living that way for so long. But at the same time, I had so much hope. And ready to level up. That's beautiful, man. You're like my sister from a different mister, man. This is awesome. So you work with clients one-on-one or mostly groups, or what's the story there?
Yeah. So we've, through my process, we went from real estate to doing business coaching. From business coaching, I started doing what we call growth coaching.
Okay.
But the last couple of years, we've really transitioned into our Dare to Dream conferences. We have a Dream Academy that we're going to be launching, mastermind groups. So I don't do very much one-on-one coaching anymore. Because we're just now seeing that we are just firm believers, right? That everybody has a dream, and dreaming is not what we think it is. Otherwise we would be getting those results. So number one, you and I have a little bit of an uphill battle in this quick conversation, which is helping people identify that having a dream has nothing to do with what you think it does, or you'd have it, you'd be living it. Right. But then the other thing that we recognize is that we should not be dreaming alone. And so a lot of what we've done is shifted our business model to being in groups, facilitating conferences, actually doing small groups, meeting people not only where they're at individually, but whoever they're doing life with. So that's been a huge change in the last couple of years.
Love that. So everyone has a dream, and it has nothing to do with what you think it is, or you would be living it. That's strong. That's huge. That is absolutely strong. So then when you're maybe working in these group settings, what is the thing that stands out the most that you see as their biggest, we'll call it their biggest blind spot?
Yeah. I would go back to, again, Mark Twain says it. It's a quote from him that says, it's not what we know that hurts us. It's what we think we know that just isn't so. And I think that, right, and anytime in a conversation, it's the illusion that it happened. And so I think oftentimes what we don't understand, that what we're interacting with is our belief systems. So often we go, yeah, well, I would be living the dream if my husband would just get on board, or, I would have a better life if I didn't have such a hard upbringing, or if the economy changed, or if I had more in the bank account. And what happens, Scott, is we actually start to live a life based upon what's happening around us, which is fine. We call that reality, right? Like it's true. And most of us also live from our past, right? Our past pain, our past hurt, past traumas, all valid. So again, in the short conversation, I'm not suggesting they're not valid. I'm just saying that what's happening is I'm taking my past and my reality and I'm throwing it on my future. That's what we're doing, right?
Yes.
So the idea of dreaming is I have to be able to be aware of what's happening around me and behind me, but then I have to be able to go so deep within me to the dreams that God's given me, the visions, the potential. And I have to learn how to be bold enough, crazy enough, brilliant enough, right? To bring that out to the world around me, learning how to make decisions now based upon where I'm going, not where I am or where I've been. That's what it means to dream. So doing this in between relationships is like, I got to deal with my stuff while you're dealing with your stuff. Then we have to learn where we're going. And then we have to do that together.
I love it.
It's peopling is hard, but when we
I love it.
But when we have a dream and when we know where we're going and we recognize that, okay, then the point of this relationship is connection, we can do it well. We can do it wholehearted.
And I love it. It's a lot of people like, I have, when I'm working with my clients and my coaching clients, I'm blessed to have is, so many have a foot in the future, a foot in the past, and they pee all over the present. Right. And then, it's just the truth. And then I have to explain to them, what's happened to you is not what's happening, to you. And like my first meeting, if I am blessed to have enough to have a face-to-face, clients here in South Florida, I go out to their car. One, I want to see what their car looks like on the inside, because you can tell a lot about a person, how they take care of their ride. And two is like, we sit there and I put him in the driver's seat and, I said, this rear view mirror right here is small for a reason, right? It's a great place to learn from. It's a great place to visit, but don't live there, right? This windshield's huge, scary. It's like, whoa, but it will get you just this little dashboard right here. I'm the GPS, right? I'm going to help you get there, but you got to, put the seatbelt on, put the ignition in, and get going. So, and that just gets them set up for like, listen, man, what's happening is ahead of us and we're going to go after it. We can learn from this little thing back here. So I love that we speak the same language on that. So let me ask you something when we working with the group settings and whatnot, and you have people coming up to you all the time, whether it's virtually or, in person, if you're at an event, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you, but never do?
Oh man. Yeah. I think for me, I wish that they would come up to me and that they would go, all right, I have a dream or I don't. Either one, right? Because some people, disappointment is the number one killer to dreams. Disappointment, because all of us have had one at some point in time. And a lot of times, right? I built the business and it failed. I got married and I got divorced. I wanted a baby and I couldn't get pregnant, right? Like that is real. And so disappointment keeps us from clarifying our new dreams, right? Or some of us are the dreamers that are like, I have a million dreams. And you and I are like, you're not doing any of them, So I wish that people would come up to me and they would say, what's the point of the dream? Because my answer to them would be, well, the point of the dream is not the dream. The point of the dream is you. The point of the dream is your character. It's not about when I get there, then I'm going to be happier. It's going to be who you have to become so that the dream is a byproduct of your character, not your accomplishment.
Wow.
It's a byproduct, right? If I go great, whether I have one or not, what we have to understand is that we're after the finish line. God's after our heart. Yes. We're after the dream. He's after our character, right? And here's why is that we have a God that's good enough to recognize, gives me goosebumps saying this because I'm in this process right now with him, but he's this good that when he recognizes that the weight of the blessing is massive. Yes. He recognizes that just because you get more money doesn't mean you're going to keep it. Just because you get sober doesn't mean you're going to stay sober. Just because you get married doesn't mean you're going to stay married. That there is a difference between getting there and having the character to hold the weight of the blessing. And so I wish that I could help people understand from head to heart that yes, we need a dream bigger than this life to live for. And it's not about the dream. It's about our character. And the process, the gap is actually more about character building and resiliency and recognizing that the pressure is a privilege. It's not really about the dream. That will happen when you become who you need to become.
And you nailed it, because when you get blessed big time, right? The weight of that is huge. And like you had said before, you like that can of worms that opened up, you're like, what now? Like making the first, like some businessmen have said, making the first $1 million is easy. It's making the more, or a music rapper or whatever. It's like making that first album, they nail it, but making that second one and keeping the momentum going is huge, right?
Well, and here's why I think that is because, people would call this either imposter syndrome or self-sabotage.
Yes.
Right. But here's how I look at that. People ask me that all the time. Yeah, but this self-sabotage, you're like, what's saying that? Let me help you understand what it is. Self-sabotage or imposter syndrome is basically the world around me is changing more than the world within me. And so I will do whatever it takes to get the world around me to be in alignment with whatever I believe to be true within me. So even if I make $1 million, if I have an internal world that believes that I'll never have enough, I'll make it and then I'll spend it. Or if I get in an amazing relationship that they love me and care for me, but I believe that I'm not worthy of love, it's only a matter of time before I will, quote unquote, sabotage it, right? Yeah, but all I'm doing is I'm just getting them to align. So again, if I recognize this, then I need to go, all right, then this is more about my character. And so as I grow and as I move towards the dreams and as I start to see accomplishments, I have to always make sure that I'm asking the world around me, right, to come in alignment with the world around me. But then I've got to make sure that every once in a while, the world around me is going to start to shift and I need to catch up the world within me. And then as the world within me catches up, I need to raise the standard. And so it's not about balance. I hate that word.
Yeah, I hate balance.
We're supposed to be balanced.
Yes.
It's about it's alignment.
Yes. I love that you said you hate balance. We're besties now because I don't allow balance in any part of my life or even my coaching. I believe in harmony, believe in, you can liken it to a jazz band where God and spiritual is the drums, personal growth might be the guitar, family might be the horns and on to the 8 pillars that, we have. If one of them's out of tune, it kind of sounds poopy, right? It doesn't sound that good. But if you don't have to be Eddie Van Halen on the guitar, but you can just learn just enough to keep those things in harmony to keep it going. Where balance equals 0. There's no balance. And I love your alignment. That's beautiful. So have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Julia. What knowledge nuggets might you drop on her? Not to change anything, because your journey is pretty awesome, right? Yeah. But what kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop on her, maybe to shorten a learning curve or blast through, maybe just a little bit quicker?
Yeah. So it's the same thing I tell myself, honestly, Scott, still 10 times a day. So we walk people through a process of, we don't talk about the concepts of limiting belief and visioning and things like that. But anyone could do that. Like those are all sticky topics, right? Sure. But we actually walk them through a framework of how to identify what yours is. Right. So my vision is a world where we create uninhibitedly because we're loved unconditionally. So we live free. That 22-year-old girl did not live free. She was really afraid to fail. She was afraid to do the wrong things, right? And so had I known then that, dude, you are so flippin' loved, create unconditionally, do what's never been done, write what's never been written. Like there's so much grace and so much love to make mistakes and to hit home runs. God, I would have been doing that back then. Now, to your point, I still say this to myself. I still will run up against my limiting beliefs. I'll still start getting out of the box, right? And people, all the things, like none of that changes, but it is still something I'm saying to my 36 or 37, however old I am. Who cares? I still say it 5 times a day.
Okay. Yeah. And you said create uninhibitedly. Is that what you said? So we can
because I am loved unconditionally.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. And yeah, I understand what you're saying with that. Cause I'll get into the points where I'll get to an area where I think I'm there, but haven't really arrived, and we don't arrive till it's done, and then God kind of takes us and then we live our eternal. But, at 51 years old, I can look back, and kind of see where my limiting belief, Scott, would pop up. And then knowing that I wasn't creating at that time,
100%. Well,
and I wasn't.
And I love that you're saying that, because I think sometimes someone could hear what feels to be a rather ambiguous statement, like the one that I said, right? Mm-hmm. Or again, I grew up in the church, so I've heard all the scriptures, I've done all the things, right? For me, Scott, I just want to tell you 2 areas that vision for my life has radically impacted us. Number one, it's a vision that got my husband and I sober 2 years ago, almost to the day.
Love
We
it.
didn't have a crazy drinking problem. We joke like, I just drink often, like Monday and Friday, and is it 3:00 any day? And
Right.
for all the reasons, like I'm rough around the edges, or I just need to unwind, or I need a break, or I just don't want to be here, but with a glass of wine, sure, But I knew that it was keeping me from really creating uninhibitedly. And I knew it was an area I was hiding at the end of every day, right? Or in a room, it was like I could be here, but not fully be here. And so when I actually took responsibility for the vision that I had for my life, that it wasn't a nice idea, but it was like actually a standard for me to live in, it helped us get sober radically overnight, like cold turkey.
Love it.
And then the other one was ultimately, I've been in the marketplace being a growth coach, and it's once we sold everything and traveled the country in an RV that I felt very led to write this book, and to not only stay in the business lane, but to also be in the church. I would have never done that with that old mindset. Never, right? Because there's rules. There's rules to follow in business and in church until you're like, no, there ain't. Like there's truth is truth. And like principles are principles. And so I just wanted to kind of bring some application there, because I think that concepts are concepts until they transform the way that you make decisions.
Yes.
Now we're playing ball. Now we're in a totally different game. So that's been huge for us.
That's huge. I'm glad that you guys did that too. And you got to live a little bit while you're like, kind of doing that as well. That's beautiful. So how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. Hopefully it's way down the road, but how would you want your dash remembered?
Oh gosh, every time someone comes into a room with me, I want them to experience freedom. That's our message. Even when we say you come to Dare to Dream conference, you bought a ticket to dreaming. We sold you a ticket to freedom. I believe that we are living from victory. We live from freedom, right? Jesus died on a cross for us. That cost us nothing. That cost him everything. And now it's just our job to hold the line.
Love it.
So my dash, I want people to live free, period. End of the story.
Yeah.
Past addiction, past the past, past scarcity, survival, all things around them. I just want them to understand the depth and the height and the width of true freedom.
Love it. I love the depth, the height, and the width. That's awesome. So what do you think people misunderstand the most about you?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question. I've learned this a lot in the last year. We've grown massively. We've hired 4 team members. And I think I was really afraid to step into this leadership role. I've been coaching, running $250,000, $500,000 coaching business all on my own without any help. And so when I started hiring team members, that let people in real close. And so oftentimes my prickly edges is I love hard. So I am prickly. And when you see me prickly, it just means I love you. Like I love hard. I love hard conversations. I don't mind being mad. I don't care if you're like, that was awful. I'm like, I know. Like that to me is connection. And so sometimes I think people go, oh, that's a lot, or they reject, or they're like, I don't want to have this conversation. To me, that is life. That is love. That is energy. I think people would misunderstand I feel you. Intensity for rejection, when really it's like a big bear hug. Let's get up in my
let's get there. No, I love it, because like Donnie's on the screen laughing, because it's the same way with me. I can prickly is probably a easy word, because trust me, the military will come out and stuff, because I just want to serve so perfectly. That it's like so, but no, they're awesome. I couldn't do this without them now. So what's your definition of a life well lived?
I will never forget, this had to have been 20 years ago, because we're old enough now to say that, right? So 20 years, I'm in a church service with John Bevere, and he said something that just stuck with me again. It was probably because of my wrong behavior that I learned. My dad was very much around, I don't care what you do, just do the right thing. And it just created a lot of stress.
Sure.
But I remember John Bevere said one day, at the end of your life, God wants to look at you and go, did you do what I told you? Did you do right? Did you do wrong? He says, well, did you do what I asked you to do?
Right.
And I just believe that God has called each of us to fulfill our space, fill it, not to compare, not to look how big someone else is, not to look at the industry, not to look at statistics, not to look at numbers. Like God doesn't live in that world. And I just believe that a life well lived is one that identifies the space that they were called to fill, and they fill it with their whole heart.
I love that. You can't ask for more than that. That's awesome. Awesome, Julia. Time to shine today. Podcast Varsity Squad. We are back. And Julia, we're going to definitely connect one day, face to face. And we're going to talk about some of these questions. Might take 15, 20 minutes on each one of them. But today you got 5 seconds with no explanations. And I promise you they can all be answered that way. You ready to level up?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Julie, what's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Start and don't stop.
Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
My morning routine.
Awesome. You see me kind of walking down the street, and you're like, man, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. Other than the good book in your book, what book might you hand me to help me kind of get me out of my funk and level me up?
The 5 a.m. Club.
Ooh, yeah, Robin, baby. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. What's your most commonly used emoji when you text, if any?
Fire.
Fire. Nicknames growing up?
Julia Gulia.
Julie from Never Been Kissed, right? Love it. What is your hidden talent and or superpower that you have that nobody knows about until now?
Oh, man. I work out barefooted.
Nice. I do everything barefoot. That's awesome. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
None.
None. Awesome.
I don't like playing games. I don't.
Good. Headline for your life?
Live free.
Yeah. Any superstitions?
That there are superstitions.
I love it. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Almond milk cookie dough.
Nicknames growing up?
Jules.
Jules. So, I already asked you that. So let's have the Julia Gulia sandwich. Build that sandwich for me. What's on that sandwich?
Oh my gosh. Lettuce, every veggie you can think of, bison.
Ooh, there you go.
And some salt, sea salt.
Love it. Favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time or money to?
Compassion International.
Love it. Last question. You can elaborate on this one a little bit, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
That's so funny. I don't know that I listen to any of that music, but if I had to pick, I would say 90s.
90s. All right. Very cool. Very cool. And Julia, how can we find you, love?
You go to thejuliagentry.com for website and every place on social.
Yeah, and that is the THE Julia Gentry, which all of her social is just rocking. So tell me a little bit about your book here. I Dream, and it's Dream Dash, I Dare You, a wake-up call to greater alignment in your faith, family, career, and community.
Yeah, this book will change your life. And I know everybody says that when
Absolutely,
they write a book, but it's actually a framework. It's not what you think, but it's a framework to help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be so you can dream again. So At the end, at last part of this book, you will close it knowing yourself better, being more aligned in mindset, heart set, and you will actually be able to put pen to paper on how to pursue the dreams that God's given you.
I love it. And Squad, I'm going to do, I just downloaded it on the Kindle. I'm sorry I didn't read it before we got on board here, but I'm going to do a 5-book giveaway to the first person. Let me get a see. We're going to make sure you've listened this long. Let me think. Let's put in no limiting beliefs. If you put that in any of our social, I don't care if it's Pinterest, Instagram, if you text it to 561-440-3830, no limiting beliefs, I will get a copy of Julia's book out to you. And Julia, you also have a mastermind coming up this year, correct?
We have masterminds and a conference.
Okay. And the masterminds is that online? The masterminds?
If you go to dreamstormwithjulia.com, you scroll down, there's a free training. So for anyone that's listening, they can go there and they can sign up to join us every Thursday. I would love to have you as a guest. Love
it. That's dreamstormjulia.com. Beautiful.
No, Dreamstorm with Julia.
Okay. Dreamstorm. So like you're brainstorming, but you're dreamstorming with dreamstormwithjulia.com. Awesome. So November 2nd, you have a conference where the awesome Sean Bowles is speaking, right?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be fire.
Fire. Love it. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we have a 2.5-day complete immersion of the work. So when you start to read the book, because I know everyone's going to start reading it, you're going to go, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And I would love to experience this real time. That's what the conference is designed to do. It actually walks you through a process real time in an experiential fashion. Plus, we have incredible worship. Sean Bolt's insane sponsors this year. It's going to be amazing.
And I love it. And I'm just going to tell you, squad, that you have to get there. It's on JuliaGentry.com. It's on the homepage, actually. And the prices are phenomenal. I'll tell you that right now. So, I'll also, if you listen to this, because this will probably, let's say it's August 3rd, so it's going to drop in a couple weeks, so more than enough time. I will do 2 standard early bird tickets for anybody that wants to go. Just reach out to me directly, and I will do 2 standard early bird tickets as a gift as well. So, Julie, can you do me one last solid and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can kind of take with us, internalize, and take action on?
Yeah, I would say, again, the 2 hardest days are the day that you're going to start and the day that you want to stop. So it's simple, stupid, hard, Scott, but start and just don't stop.
No, I love it. And squad, I just had a super fun conversation. I had like pages of notes with my good friend here, Julia, who kind of lived a life in a box, had loving parents that co-parented her. But she also, not to say that the parents did it, but she had some limiting beliefs. She was kind of a perfectionist. And she was always saying kind of the right things. And what she really noticed is the patterns that she had really fascinated her. She was doing the same thing and expecting a different result, but it's kind of goes along the lines of insanity as well. And right now we're dealing with information to transformation. It's really bigger than it has ever been. And Julie reminds us that, everyone has a dream, but it has nothing to do with what you think it does or you would actually be living it. That's a deep statement. And that's probably going to kind of go on the quote page for her. But with that being said, we can't really do it alone. That's why we surround ourselves with people like Julia, her squad, the Time to Shine Today squad is as well, to really make sure that you're kind of focused on where you're going along the way, because you're going to hit bumps and bruise and sliding across home plate. You might score, and that's what you want to do, but it's going to be challenging during the times, and also between Julie and I, we kind of realized that what's happened to us is not what's happening to us. And she dropped that peopling is hard. I love that she actually dropped that. That's fantastic. That, disappointment is the number one killer to your dreams many times. And the point of the dream is not to dream. It's what I'm just going to stop butchering that. The point of the dream is not to dream that it's who you have become. The dream is the byproduct of the character, not your accomplishments. We're after the finish line. God is after our heart. So just remember that. He might lay a huge blessing on you, but there's going to be, I'm not going to say consequences, there's going to be challenges that come along with that huge blessing. You have to make sure that you have the squad around you to help you level up through that blessing and, stay humble, like I didn't, if you know my story. And Julia wants us to create uninhibitedly so we can love unconditionally. That's just fantastic. I just have tons of knowledge nuggets. All I know is that Julie is planting trees she's never going to sit in. I'm going to have to bleep that out. That, she lives for the intention and not for the attention, because she could be out there doing this, but she's bringing like Sean Bowles to rock the stage. She could easily do this, but she does it because she has the intention of really helping you level up. And she wants to also remember that God wants you to fulfill your space, not compare yourself to other people and try to be them, but be yourself, be unique, and just also serve the hell out of any ability that you can. And the 2 hardest days that we have are the days that you start and the days that you want to stop. And again, your vibe attracts your tribe. Get the people around you like Julia, like our squad here at Time to Shine Today, that'll help you see things through. And that's what Julia does. She levels up her health. She levels up her wealth. She's humble, yet she's hungry. She's absolutely stunning. She's earned a varsity letter here at Time to Shine Today. Thank you so much for coming on, Julia. I cannot wait to collaborate with you, my love.
Oh, likewise.
Chat soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website.
Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.